They say wealth can buy anything, but can it change history itself? This is the untold story of Mansa Musa, the African emperor who remains the richest man to ever walk the earth. Yet his name was almost erased from history. In the heart of West Africa, over 700 years ago, there was a kingdom so vast and so powerful that it rivaled the empires of Europe and Asia. Its streets bustled with merchants, scholars, soldiers, and travelers. This was the Empire of Mali. At its peak, it stretched across what is now Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, and parts of Nigeria. But what made Mali different was not just its size, it was its wealth. Beneath its soil lay rivers of gold, an endless treasure hidden deep in the earth. And at the center of this empire stood a man whose fortune was beyond comprehension, Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa wasn't born into the throne in the traditional way. He rose to power almost unexpectedly, when the previous rulers set out on a journey and never returned. Fate, it seemed, had chosen him, but no one could have predicted that under his rule, Mali would rise to become one of the most legendary empires in human history. Musa understood one thing well: power was not just measured by armies or land, it was measured by influence, and he used wealth as his greatest weapon. His empire controlled the trade routes across the Sahara Desert, where caravans of camels carried gold, salt, ivory, and slaves. Towns like Timbuktu and Gal became centers of trade, attracting scholars, architects, and adventurers from across the known world. But Musa's story is remembered most for a single journey. In the year 1324, he decided to make the sacred pilgrimage to Mecca. What followed was a journey so extravagant, so astonishing, that it shook the world. He set out with a caravan of tens of thousands, soldiers, servants, and slaves. Alongside them were camels carrying bags of pure gold. Some say there were 80 camels, each carrying hundreds of pounds of gold dust in bars. As his caravan moved through Africa and into the Middle East, Musa gave out gold to the poor, to rulers, and to merchants. In Cairo, he distributed so much wealth that the value of gold collapsed, prices rose, economies crumbled, and the aftershocks of his generosity were felt for more than a decade. Imagine being so wealthy that a single journey destroys an entire region's economy. That was the hidden power of Mansa Musa. But Musa wasn't just a man of riches. He was a builder, a patron of knowledge. On his way back to Mali, he brought with him architects from Egypt and scholars from across the Muslim world. He transformed Timbuktu into a center of learning, commissioning mosques and universities that drew students for centuries. The Sankore University, one of the oldest in the world, became a beacon of knowledge, where mathematics, astronomy, and law were studied. Manuscripts filled with wisdom were copied and preserved, some of which still exist today, hidden in the libraries of Mali. Yet, despite all this, Mansa Musa's story is often absent from the pages of mainstream history. Why? Perhaps because it challenges the narrative that Africa was always a land of poverty and despair. The truth is different. Africa once stood at the center of wealth and culture, and its rulers commanded respect across continents. But empires rise, and empires fall. After Musa's death, Mali began to decline. Rival kingdoms rose, trade routes shifted, and the once mighty empire fractured. The treasures of Mali were lost, stolen, or forgotten. By the time Europeans arrived centuries later, the glory of Musa's empire was only a whisper, a memory buried beneath the sands of the Sahara. Still, Musa's legend refused to die. Mapmakers in Europe began to draw him on their charts, seated on a golden throne, holding a nugget of gold in his hand. They had never seen him, but his wealth was so famous that he became a symbol of unimaginable riches. To this day, economists calculate that his fortune, adjusted for today's money, was worth over $400 billion, more than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos combined. So what does Mansa Musa's hidden past teach us? It teaches us that history is more than what we're told in classrooms. It reminds us that Africa was once the land of empires, libraries, and wealth beyond imagination. And it forces us to ask, what other stories have been hidden, forgotten, or erased? Musa's journey is not just about gold, it is about vision. He used his fortune not only to build monuments but to invest in knowledge, culture, and faith. His story tells us that true wealth is not measured in money alone, but in the legacy we leave behind. And as we dig into the hidden past, we uncover more than just one man's fortune. We uncover the truth about a continent's greatness, and the silence of history that tried to erase it. So when you hear about the richest men alive today, remember the emperor from West Africa who once gave away so much gold that the world had to rewrite its economy. Remember Mansa Musa. Remember Mali. Remember the hidden past.